us tonight?
Yeah, we're lucky to finally have a quorum. We've been trying to get a quorum for 2 months.
All the CPW, all the CPW stuff has. When you have it on, at your project number on spec cover page.
Is it the title lock? Because I think it's
I don't think so.
I can't remember, 'cause, like, sometimes stuff doesn't fit, and I just drop them off.
Are you ready? Okay. Allison, we're ready.
It is now 5:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Just a few reminders, when you're speaking, be sure to unmute your microphone to be heard on the broadcast. The public who did not register in advance can watch live broadcasts on the city's YouTube channel. For live Spanish translation services, please dial 720-386-9023 and use the code 104091#.
Okay, great. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Adjustment to order. Will staff please do roll call?
Jean Leffel,
Present.
Joe Frey-Waite,
Present.
Joanne Hernandez,
Present?
Christy Douglas.
Present.
We do have a quorum.
Great, thank you. All right, and per the Board of Adjustment bylaws, an election of chair and vice chair shall be held at the first meeting of the year. Anyone interested, please nominate themselves. Okay, I'll go ahead and nominate myself, Joanne Hernandez, for chair. Any other nominations? No? Okay. All right. Can I have a motion appointing the chair?
Do you need a second for the motion?
We need a motion first to nominate Joanne Hernandez as chair.
Sorry, I thought you were making a motion, so I wanted
Can we
to
get a
clarify.
motion? Yeah.
Okay. I make a motion to appoint Joanna Hernandez as chair of the zoning board of adjustment.
Thank you. And can we get a second?
I'd like to second that motion.
Great, thank you. We have a motion by Board Member Fry and a second by Board Member Leffel. Please open electronic voting. Okay. Okay, we've got 4 yeses, so vote passes, thank you. And we'll now need a vote to vote upon a vice chairperson for the Planning Commission. Anyone interested, please nominate themselves. I think that's supposed to be for Board of Adjustment. Anyone like to nominate themselves?
Do you not want to be the vice chair, Mr. Jean?
Oh, no, I already done all that.
You already done all?
You're the only one here in the present company that's eligible to fill that position right now.
Well,
So I'm nominating you,
Okay.
Joe Fry, or whatever his name is, the new guy.
Okay.
Can I have a motion appointing the vice chair?
You gotta get the second first.
That was your motion? All right.
Oh, was that the motion? Okay, great. And second?
So who made the motion?
I did.
Oh, okay, and I'll second that, please.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have a motion by Board Member Leffel and a second by Board Member Douglas. All right, please open electronic voting. We got 4 yeses, so Vice Chair Fry, congratulations.
Fun days.
Great. Thanks. All right. And can I get a motion to approve the July 9th, 2024 meeting minutes? Any questions on those?
I make a motion to approve the July 9th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Great, thank you.
You can't do that, you weren't here.
Do you want to make a motion
Can we
then?
get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Great, thank you. Can we get a second? Great. Thank you. All right, we have a motion by Board Member Leffel and a second by Board Member Douglas. Please open the electronic voting.
Okay. Boom, boom, boom.
Okay, we got 4 yeses in the vote results, so that passes. Thank you. Okay, I'll now open the first public hearing and ask the city planner, Nick Berry, to please announce the first case.
Good evening. The case before you this evening, AH 24-001, the Metro Wastewater Recovery is requesting a height exception for a maximum building height of 150 feet, where the Land Development Code allows for a maximum height of 50 feet. The subject property is located at 6450 York Street and is approximately 135.6 acres in size and is zoned heavy intensity industrial I3. At this time, I will now ask the applicant to come forward to address the board with the staff presentation to follow.
Good evening. Good to go? You can hear me okay?
Yeah, your mic's on.
Okay.
You can pull the mic down a little.
My name is Becky Luna. I work for Carollo Engineers. We're a engineering consultant for Metro Water Recovery, and are the design engineer on the project that we're here to talk to you about today. So just looking at the big picture, Metro Water Recovery is the largest water and resource recovery facility in the Rocky Mountain West. They serve 65 local governments and 2.2 million people. Metro treats an average of 138 million gallons per day of wastewater at 2 different treatment facilities, and has invested over $2 billion since 1961 in resources to improve the quality of the South Platte River. So the map that you can see here shows the service area for Metro Water Recovery, and there's 2 stars on that map, the Robert W. Height Treatment Facility, which we'll be talking about today, and also the Northern Treatment Plant. And so we'd like to give you an overview of the facilities today, a project summary, and a summary of the regenerative thermal oxidizer process, which is what we are seeking a height exemption for. The reason for that height exemption, which is compliance with federal and state regulations. And then we'd like to show you a site plan and some renderings so you can see what this stack height will look like in the vicinity that we'll be locating it. So there are 2 wastewater plants within Metro Water Recovery's facility system. The Northern Treatment Plant is shown here at the top. It's the smaller of the 2 facilities. It's not the one that we're focused on today. Today we're here to talk to you about a height exemption associated with the Robert W. Height Treatment Facility located in Commerce City. You can see the photo on the bottom left that shows the digesters in the background. That has a rated capacity of 220 MGD. This facility has an existing cogeneration facility associated with it. So there's biogas produced in the digesters, and that gas is used in turbines to produce electricity. That's at the end of its useful life, and that's what has really generated this project. So Metro has been a pioneer in the generation of renewable energy since 1984. You can see the aerial of the cogeneration facility in the upper right. Again, that converts biogas into electricity that's used on site at Metro Water Recovery's facility. We completed a biogas utilization study in 2022 to determine how to move forward with this aging facility, whether to replace it in kind with another cogeneration facility or to transition to production of renewable natural gas, which could then be injected into Xcel Energy's natural gas pipeline And that option, which was selected to move forward with, reduces on-site combustion as compared to their current operation, and also reduces on-site greenhouse gas emissions. So this project is all being completed within the Robert W. Hite Treatment Facility, so inside the boundary. It is not changing the land use or the nature of operations at the facility. They're remaining unchanged, and they're consistent with Metro's amended conditional use permit. This project's actually being completed in 2 phases. Phase 1 includes construction of a boiler facility that's going to provide hot water to the treatment processes on site that need it. That project was approved by Commerce City and is currently in construction. The second phase of the project is going to replace the cogeneration facility with a biogas upgrading system, and that's going to be located in the footprint of the current cogeneration facility. So if you kind of go back to this aerial here where you see the building, the rectangular building that is on the kind of upper part of the photo, thank you, that is being replaced by what you can see in this rendered image, a smaller facility and some enclosures and tanks. And you can see in kind of the foreground of that rendering is a stack that is the regenerative thermal oxidizer, and that is specifically what we're seeking the height exemption for. And I'll get into more details on that. So just a little bit of background on treating biogas. It's produced in the digesters that you can see in this photo. The anaerobic stabilization of solids that come in the door into the wastewater treatment facility produces biogas. That biogas has to be flared if it's not beneficially used. And so, of course, currently I mentioned that we're using the cogeneration system, and the biogas upgrading system that we are designing as part of phase 2 of this project is going to include treatment that separates the methane from the other components, including carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide, allowing those the treated methane to be discharged directly into Xcel Energy's natural gas pipeline for consumption within that system. And the part of the biogas that's being separated and not being used in the natural gas pipeline is essentially mostly carbon dioxide, a little bit of hydrogen sulfide. That has to be oxidized prior to being emitted to the atmosphere. Otherwise, we're exceeding our H2S concentrations at the site. And so the project includes a regenerative thermal oxidizer, which is shown here. There's an exemplary photo shown here. And this process, or this piece of equipment, is specifically combusting kind of the waste gas component of the biogas that's produced. So of the separation, you know, we're separating it into the usable part and the non-usable part. The usable part's being injected into the natural gas pipeline. The non-usable part is being combusted in a regenerative thermal oxidizer. So this process combusts the H2S into SO2, or sulfur dioxide. It uses some amount of natural gas to maintain a high enough combustion temperature to make sure that we get a complete reaction. And we completed quite extensive air modeling of this system to understand what height we needed to emit the sulfur dioxide at and still meet the local air permit requirements. And the modeling showed that our stack height needs to be 110 foot tall and 16-inch in diameter, and that we would then not degrade the air quality in the area because of the SO2 emissions coming out of that stack. So there's an ancillary support building at the base there, but really it's that 16-inch stack that's exceeding the 50-foot height restriction. So as I mentioned, there are operating air permits at the facility. They're issued by CDPHE's Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment's Air Pollution Control Division. Right now, the combustion source at the plant is that cogeneration engine that's operated by ENGIE on site, as well as some miscellaneous sort of emissions associated with wastewater treatment operations. But in particular, the addition of this RTO and the combustion of the SO2 needs to meet the 1 hour sulfur dioxide national ambient air quality standard, which is 196 micrograms per meter cubed. And as I noted, that 110-foot stack height is needed to maintain the air quality. So this graph on the right is from the modeling that was conducted as part of this project. And you can see on the y-axis is the SO2 concentration at the vicinity of the site versus the stack height of the RTO. And so, at a 30, 40, 50, 60-foot stack height, we were exceeding the thresholds, but at that 110-foot, we were below and could meet the existing air quality requirements. So what does that look like on the site? So first of all, this is just a figure of Metro's current zoning for their Robert W. Height treatment facility. So the project location is in purple there. I guess, this pointer, if you can see right there. And then to the kind of lower right is a Suncor refinery. And there's the Xcel's Cherokee generating station to the left. And so this is really sandwiched within an industrial area. And we are, again, not changing any of the current zoning associated with this project. That's all being maintained the same. Here's an aerial image zooming in on the Robert W. Height treatment facility. On the west side is the South Platte River. There's a canal on the right-hand side on the east. And you can see that the proposed regenerative thermal oxidizer is actually located kind of central inside the site. So it's really not along the perimeter of the property boundary at all, but within sort of the middle of the site. Here's another view of the Robert W. Height treatment facility, and then kind of a exploded view of where that thermal oxidizer is located. Again, kind of on the interior of the site. And then looking at the equipment in particular, as you saw in the photo, there is a small kind of enclosure at grade level that houses some equipment, a blower, and but the height exemption is associated solely with the stack that you can see there on the right, that we need 110 foot so that we don't have an exceedance of SO2 at the site. Here's a rendering of the facility. There's a lot going on here. So if you take a look at, let's see, this is looking to the kind of northeast, and all the biogas is produced within these 12 digesters, anaerobic digesters, kind of in the middle of the site. I'll note that there's been a couple different height exceptions approved by the City of Commerce City at this facility. One of those is that approved biosolids dewatering storage facility, BDSF building that you can see right there. That was recently constructed. And then prior to that, there was also a height exemption approved for a pre-dewatering phosphorus recovery facility. And so on the right-hand side, you can see where the regenerative thermal oxidizer will be located and what it will look like within the plant site. Looking from a different angle, again, you can see the circular digesters. Now we're sort of looking to the northwest. And again, the regenerative thermal oxidizer stack height, you can kind of see how that'll fit into the landscape. And in the foreground is a rendering of the two-story boiler mechanical facility that's part of the phase 1 of this project and that's currently in construction. That's below the height. There was no height exemption needed for that. And then I think just this one more kind of a broad view of the facility, looking at it from kind of looking to the southwest here. And again, you can see the other two taller structures that required a height exemption and the regenerative thermal oxidizer in the foreground. And actually I think I have one more. You can see, again, this facility is located in an industrial area where you've got Suncor on one side and Xcel's Cherokee station on the other. So some large stacks kind of in the vicinity. This is really a relatively narrow tower that we're adding to the facility or stack as compared to what's in the area. And I think, yeah, maybe just a sort of schedule information. The phase 1 building division review was done under the 2018 IBC. Construction began last year. Phase 2 design was submitted to the City Building Division in December of 2024. Was also being reviewed under the 2018 IBC per some earlier correspondence so that we have consistency in building codes for this project, even though it's being constructed in 2 phases. And we're anticipating notice to proceed for construction of Phase 2 in 2025 with the full project to be commissioned in 2027. So that's just an overall kind of construction schedule. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant, board?
Sorry, we'll jump into a staff presentation in case
Okay.
I cover something and
Okay.
then we'll go through. Okay, so before you this evening, Metro Water Recovery Height Exemption, AH 24001. Just to clarify from earlier, so they're requesting a 110-foot tall exhaust stack where the zoning code only allows a 50-foot building height maximum. So for those tuning in for the first time this evening, what is a height exemption or exception, excuse me? So they're used to address situations where the height standards of the code are too restrictive. This may be due to state or federal regulatory changes, technology advancements, or other circumstances where extraordinary circumstances, you need to have a building that's over whatever the zoning limit is. Just for clarification here, the height exceptions don't apply to fences, signs, or secondary uses. So this evening, the Board of Adjustment will be deciding whether a height exception for one 100-foot tall exhaust stack can be granted and that the impacts to the surrounding properties can be mitigated. So this was kind of shown by the applicant, just to show it again. The zoning, so it's I3 site, which is heavy intensity industrial. Then you have the South Platte running on the western portion of the site, and then the O'Brien Canal on the eastern portion. As you can see, the white on the west or the left side of the image shows that the York Street is within ADCO's jurisdiction. So this site, although is in Commerce City jurisdiction, is not accessed by Commerce City roadways. So yeah, case summary, they kind of mentioned this. There's some development plan that is in review with us, and then the phase 1 project has already been approved. Character area, it's in the South Platte district, outlined there in black for you in the center of the image. Aerial of the site, kind of seen this one with the applicant as well. Some current conditions of the site. So here's an image on the site from the internal drive where the project is located. As you can kind of see here, they mentioned breaking ground. There's the excavator right there where the building for phase 1 is being built. Phase 2 will be kind of just behind this large digester here. And then this is a view from the site from York Street, looking towards Commerce City. So you can see in the background here is the Suncor refinery. And then the Excel facility is behind me in that photo. Site plan, just wanted to kind of lay out for you the dimensions. So it's this should be 72 foot 9 inches from the O'Brien Canal. Rendering of the site that was shown by the applicant. It is fairly centrally located. I'll back up to the aerial so you can see it again. So it's right here is the location of the project, so fairly central to the site itself. As of February 11th, staff has received no public comment. Here's the approval criteria. Should we want to jump into this, staff has done analysis for you. And then some considerations for your discussion. So the proposed structure should not have any negative impacts on the surrounding properties due to the location on the site being so centrally located. And the proposed structures are consistent with the height, architecture, and uses of the existing on-site and the adjacent parcels, like mentioned, Suncor Refinery and the Excel Cherokee site. All right, staff is available to answer any questions.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, all right, board, any questions?
Yes, Nick, I have one question. Will there be any visible flaring from this stack?
I'll direct that one to the applicant. My understanding is no, but we'll let them clarify.
That is correct. There will not be any visible flame or flaring off the top of that stack.
Thank you. That's my question.
Any additional questions?
Yeah, I also had a question along that line. You had mentioned flaring. So when you're saying no visible flaring, there's still flaring.
So the facility has 4 existing waste gas flares that have been permitted separately and are not above the required, or the height, except, the not above 50 foot. Those, when the biogas is not being beneficially used, are in service, and there is a little bit of visible emissions from those existing, but that is when the raw biogas is being flared in an existing structure. So this one that we're talking about, flaring is probably not the right term, right? It's sort of combusting the H2S to SO2 in the gas. So again, yeah, this is really not flaring of the biogas, and there's no visible flame from this structure.
And that's existing already, is that
The
correct?
4 flares that I mentioned are existing, yes.
Okay, and I'm not so concerned about visibility as I am what you can't see and what is impacting the quality of our air for the people, especially who live around there. So the 16 inches, is that the diameter or is that the circumference?
That is the diameter.
So it's actually 50, it's 50 inches in circumference then, correct?
If that
3.14 is,
pi d squared over 4, yeah.
yeah, so the 16 inches is rather misleading. So it's substantially bigger than it appears to be for the 16 inches. So that would be about, maybe almost 5 feet around, is that correct? Almost? Not quite. A little less than 5 feet. So that's fairly large size. And then, do we treat Commerce City waste there, or is that just for other municipalities?
Yes, Commerce City waste is treated at the Metro Water Recovery Robert W. Hyde Treatment Facility.
Okay, and I hope we're being compensated for taking on everyone else's, you-know-what.
Yeah, Metro Water Recovery is a special district.
It's a special district, and who do you pay the taxes to?
So, there's a complicated rate system, but all the connectors pay rates into the special district based on their flow and load into the facility.
And the special districts usually keep their own taxes, is that correct?
Metro is tax exempt themselves.
Oh, their taxes there.
I'm A.D. Norford. I'm the project manager for the project.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that, please?
A.D. Norford. And we don't keep taxes. We collect revenues from connectors and special districts, and we attempt to pay for our facilities and that cost with no profit per se on an annual basis with a 10-year
So,
planning cycle, basically.
so Commerce City does not benefit financially from having this in our boundaries, is that correct?
We pay taxes to Commerce City,
Do you know what kind of taxes?
use tax.
A use tax? Okay. And so what's happening, you're calling it biogas, but in actuality, then that is not methane, but there's a difference between biogas and methane?
Methane is one of the main constituents of biogas. We call it biogas because it is
It sounds good.
It's just biological It's resulting from biological processes.
Okay. But it pretty much is all methane then?
42%? 42% methane, or is it more than that? 40% carbon dioxide, is it 58%? 60% methane, there's a couple percent of VOCs and siloxane
Okay.
and some other stuff in there, but it's primarily methane and carbon dioxide.
All right, and is the carbon dioxide released into the air then?
Yes.
And how does that contribute to the greenhouse gas effects? And will this, the building of this particular tower, or whatever you'd like to call it, will that eliminate some of the CO2 going into the air?
No, CO2 isn't regulated by the state for air emissions.
Okay. And so without this, what's happening right now?
We use the gas to generate electricity on site.
Okay, and bringing this in, what will then happen?
First, we have to complete the boiler mechanical facility. We recover heat from cogen to heat that digester and anaerobic digestion process. So we have to have those boilers in that facility ready to supplant the heat that we recover from cogen in order to take that offline and construct the biogas upgrading facility first. And then we would construct the biogas upgrading facility once that's complete.
Okay, and so why is it so imperative then that this be put in, and how is it going to benefit us?
At the 110 feet height exception we've requested, it actually, the exhaust coming out of the top of that stack at 110 feet is less, the H2S or sulfur dioxide at that point is actually less than the background ambient SO2 in the area.
So it minimizes the sulfur dioxide that's produced, is that correct?
It disperses it at a rate that is less than background concentrations.
And sulfur dioxide, isn't that what they put out as a warning, like at fracking sites that people might encounter? It's very toxic, isn't it?
I'm not familiar with
You're not familiar with it?
that, no.
But it is poisonous, correct? Sulfur dioxide? Lethal? If you
Not at the
encounter it?
concentrations that we have.
Not at the concentrations, okay?
I don't know.
And so by putting this stack up, that's the reason for wanting to put the stack up, so that it will minimize the effects of the sulfur dioxide that's
Correct.
produced.
The modeling that we've had our third-party consultant do that assists us to put that all together to apply for the air permit with the state has told us that at that stack height and those concentrations, SO2 would not be measurable at our property
So this would
boundaries.
be so that you could meet the requirements of obtaining an air permit?
Correct.
Okay. And do you have an air permit at this point?
We are waiting to go through this process in order to submit that application to the state.
Okay, and you haven't had to have an air permit
I'm
to this
sorry?
point? Because this has been in existence there for quite some time, right?
We have a current air permit, yes.
You have a.
But anytime you change a piece of equipment that emits exhaust and you're planning to do that, you have to submit that to the state for our new air permit. So we're getting rid of an old air permit and moving this to a newer air permit.
And so this will increase the quality of the air, Lynn?
Yes, long-term, the greenhouse gas emissions from what we're proposing in the design is much less than what we currently have.
Okay. And so there are no other sites like in the South Metro area or anything like that. We're the only site here in Commerce City that takes on all of the waste from the Denver Metro area. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, if you remember the slide that showed the blue,
Well, there's one in Brighton, and I know they've been
Yes.
putting in a pipeline coming through.
and there's
Commerce
some in Littleton and farther south there.
Oh,
But for
okay.
the greater Denver metropolitan area, we are the one and only.
Okay, all right. And if you don't put this in, then you will not meet the requirements to meet the standards for the air permit, the new air permit.
We would have to choose a different technology and design that in support of a application for a different air permit or an air permit with different technologies. So we would have to go back and redo that.
Okay. Have you looked at other options?
We have, and we feel that this is the best option for the site and the air quality, given what we have to work with.
Okay, thank you for answering my questions.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Mr. Barry, I was just curious, I did not, my packet isn't working super well. I was just curious, the applicant had mentioned that, or criteria for, the approval for the first one is, state or federal regulatory changes or requirements. I was just curious, has the city engineer reviewed that and determined the 110 feet is required?
So the city engineers that we have on staff are civil. So they're looking at drainage, roadways, that sort of thing. The documentation that they provided was reviewed by a third-party engineer that specializes in air pollution.
But it was the city.
So we don't have anybody on staff that could review and,
So we hired a third party to review it?
no, the applicant provided those documents. So we don't have anybody on staff that would review that.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a question?
So could you tell me what the other options were that you looked at in this process?
Sure. The other options for the treatment of the waste gas instead of a regenerative thermal oxidizer are fairly complex pieces of equipment that have to remove the H2S in the biogas before oxidizing it. So before it's converted to SO2, it would be removed as H2S and essentially elemental sulfur. Those processes have very high O&M costs and require chemicals for sort of the redox reactions needed to remove the H2S from the gas phase and get it into a precipitate phase. And so this option that we're presenting is, I would say, one, the industry standard for biogas upgrading systems, and two, presents the most effective use of Metro's resources in terms of capital and O&M costs.
So we're talking cheaper. This is cheaper, number one?
Yes.
And do you know what kind of chemicals is used in this process?
One option is caustic. I don't know whether sulfur solve was a proprietary chemical. Each manufacturer had their own chemical
Right,
that they
so
would
they don't
use.
want to
Yes.
disclose what the secret sauce is. Okay. But then you wouldn't have to have this 50-foot,
That is correct.
5-foot in diameter or circumference stack.
Yeah, and just related to the diameter versus the circumference, what you see when you look at it from the side is really the diameter, right? So that's sort of the width of the stack. So it's not 5 foot
Right.
wide, right? It's just 16 inches wide.
Yeah. No, I had just assumed that it was 16 inches around, which I thought, well, that's nothing. But were there any other options, just the two that were explored? Or are there no other options available?
Of the sort of chemical options, there's a variety of manufacturers, but there's nothing beyond that.
Okay. And with the elimination of using chemicals, you still have the combusting, which creates pollution as well, right?
The CO2 would continue to be emitted to the atmosphere, yes.
Okay. And then if you were going the chemical route without the 110-foot combustor, can I call it that? Or,
A regenerative thermal oxidizer, the thermal oxidizer, yeah.
oxidizer, okay? But it's the same thing as a combustor, right? It's just a different way of saying it, isn't it?
I suppose it's oxidizing the H2S in the biogas to,
What's the
SO2.
difference between oxidizing and combusting then?
I guess it's the same chemical reaction.
Yeah, okay, same thing then, just a different way of saying it. And what kind of, so would the cost for an alternative process for different equipment, what was the difference in cost?
At least $10 million capital, plus all the operation costs associated with the chemical system. I don't
So the
remember
operation cost would be
annual
higher
operation cost,
as
but I
well?
could believe that it's in the six figures every year, certainly hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Just hundreds of thousands, okay. And then that cost, I would assume, would be passed on to the consumers or the
To the
People
ratepayers,
who-
that's correct.
flush their toilets. Okay. All right, thank you for answering my additional questions.
Thank you. Did we have any other questions for the applicant or for the staff? Okay, great. All right. Do any members of the public wish to provide comments on this case? It appears none. Is there anyone attending virtually tonight who wishes to provide comments or to speak?
No.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, at this time, I'll now close the public hearing for this case. Can I get a motion? And do we want to go ahead and approve?
I motion to close the hearing.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion by Board Member Fry. And can we get a second?
What was his motion?
To close the hearing? We're closing.
Well, I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Board Member Fry and a second by Board Member Leffel. Any discussion? No? Okay,
Yes, actually, I have one more question. And I know it's not discussion, and there's a motion on the floor to close the hearing.
We would have to reopen the public
You'd have to
hearing.
reopen it?
Correct.
Well, we haven't voted to close it. I didn't even know, I thought that you could just close the hearing as the chair, but
That's how it's been done in the past.
Yeah, the bylaws do permit, Ms.
okay.
Elliott Schaefer, Assistant City Attorney, the bylaws do permit the chairman to just close the hearing. There doesn't need to be a motion to close the hearing.
Okay, great. Okay. And can we please open the electronic voting?
We are discussing right now.
Oh, did you want, is there further discussion?
Well, there didn't have to be a motion to close the hearing, so you have the right to close the hearing, and you did that. So,
But Board Member Douglas is asking to open the hearing
Okay.
so that she may ask a follow-up question.
Got it. So I'll go ahead and reopen the public hearing.
thank you. It's a real simple question. Is there any possibility that this could be done with 2 stacks rather than the one of 110?
That's a good question. Actually, the single stack benefits us because we're trying to get an exit velocity that's high enough that we're not above the ambient SO2 threshold. And so 2 smaller stacks would not help us. It actually probably would make the air quality a little bit higher.
Thank you for answering that. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you opening that back up so I could ask that question. Thank you.
No problem. All right, we'll go ahead and close this public hearing for this case, and please open the electronic voting. Oh, we still need a motion? Okay. All right.
We're to the discussion part, correct? We're at the discussion part before a motion?
Actually, you need to make a motion, there needs to be a second, and then you can call for discussion.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just,
It's
I
all right.
sit
My
on the
first time
council,
here.
so.
Each group,
Thank
each
you.
board operates a little differently.
Okay, so can we get a motion? Can we get a motion to close?
I'd like to make a motion to approve in the case of AH 240001,
Do we need to,
as written.
do we need the motion to close, though? No, okay.
Yep.
I will second your motion.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve by Board Member Leffel and a second by Board Member Fry.
And just maybe a friendly amendment from the gallery, just to adopt the criteria or approve based on the criteria in the staff report. So a motion to approve.
Based on the criteria in the staff report, yes.
Okay, great. Okay, now can we open the voting? Thank you.
It's
Or a discussion.
it's
Oh,
discussion, then
discussion,
voting.
sorry.
It's all good. It's been a while, right?
Yeah, it's been a
It
while.
was July last time y'all talked, so.
Any discussion? Okay, appears there's no discussion to be had. So,
I do, just for discussion among board members, I seconded it so that we could then open a discussion on it. For our criteria A, for reasonably comply with or state or federal regulatory changes or needed to overcome technological limitations, I just have a concern with the city not having done a third-party just assessment, if it's required or not. I just have a little hesitation approving it based on that without our third-party review of it. And I just wanted to mention that to the, my colleagues.
any follow-up discussion on Member Fry?
I appreciate your concerns because I believe that's something that should have happened and didn't. And since this is in our jurisdiction, it's kind of, once again, putting the cart before the horse. And I do have my reservations, so thank you for pointing that out. I I don't know if we're shutting the barn door a little bit too late after the horses gotten out. It sounds like they've done substantial work on this moving forward. It would have been nice for the city to have a little bit more
Input?
involvement.
There are a number of the requirements that in the current presentation that I think meet our criteria, as stated in the staff report. I'd be more inclined to table until we have a report verifying the criteria A, which is verifying that the height requirement of 110. I see you're about to push a question, if you could.
Just to point out to the board that the criteria in the code and what's in the staff report, it's either, it can meet A, so the requested height structure, or the requested structure height reasonably complies with state or federal regulatory changes, or the criterion B. So there's an alternative there. It doesn't need to meet A and B.
So you're saying section A has one or two?
Correct.
Similar to the
Correct. It can meet section A for the height exception to be approved, or the B and the criteria specified under there.
Okay. Maybe we eventually fix it so it follows the similar to the section C of A or B. It's a little bit more helpful. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Does that help out there with that clarification, Member Frey?
I'm not sure I'm thinking about it.
Any other additional follow-up on that discussion point? Any additional? No? Would you be ready to vote on it, or do you want to consider it some more? Okay. All right. So if we can open up the electronic voting, I think we're ready to vote. Go. So we've got 3 yeses and 1 no vote. So I'll go ahead and move that the Board of Adjustment enter a finding that the requested height exception for the property located at 64.
Yeah, it looks like there is a not voted, not a
Oh, did
no
it not
vote.
get it? Was that one mine?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it seeing it now?
Are we taking a vote, revoting?
Yes.
Okay. So 4 yeses. Thank you. Okay, so I move that the Board of Adjustment enter a finding that the requested height exception for the property located at 6450 York Street, contained in case AH24-0001, meets the criteria of the Land Development Code, and based upon such findings, approve the height exception. Thank you. All right. Okay, I'll now open the final public hearing and ask City Planner Nathan Chavez to please announce the first case.
In case AV 24-0003, Frank Martinez is requesting a variance for a side yard setback reduction for an attached carport located at 6011 Olive Street. The 0.14 acre property is zoned single-family attached residential district, R2. And then at this time, I'll ask the applicant to come forward to address the board with the staff presentation to follow.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So what I'm trying to propose is I just live down the street and I got 13 feet from my house to the fence. And, I've been there 26 years now and I've done everything legal. I did a garage, an addition to my house, I always pull permits. When I did the addition 8 years ago, I asked the inspector, when he inspected my addition, hey, do I need permit to put me a metal carport? He said, no, it's not attached, so you don't need a permit. It's okay, so I put up a metal carport. So here 8 months ago, after 8 years, it didn't bother nobody, my neighbors, it wasn't an eyesore. So I got a ticket to, take it down, or we're gonna come and take it down for you. So, okay, I came, talked to city council on couple of different occasions and, try to plead my case, but it really didn't go anywhere. So, okay, I took it down. And so now, I've talked to building department and they want me to build, that's why the reason for the variance is from the fence line, they want, I asked for 1.5 feet because my house kind of sits like this and the garage is kind of at an angle. So, I got my classic vehicles in the garage, so I can take them out, and go to car shows and drive them around. So it's, moving it over, it's just doesn't give me the room that I need to really turn the corners, and get the cars out. So, I've been talking to Nathan and so we did compromise. I can do the 2 foot, okay? But I know it's nothing to do with you guys. I'll talk to the building if we can get something approved. But I'm just, and again, I know this is not for you guys, but why can't I just put steel posts and make it non-combustible instead of a firewall? And that way I can, have a little bit more room to really maneuver my cars in and out of the garage. So, I don't know, it's, according to that case, but mine's tiny compared to that one. So that was good to listen in on that.
Thank you. You have a presentation?
Good evening, Chair, board members, Councilmember Douglas. So as mentioned earlier, the applicant, Frank Martinez, is applying for a variance. So a variance is an official deviation from the Land Development Code standards, which is approved by a quasi-judicial body, in this case you all, the Board of Adjustments. And a variance is granted to a specific property, meaning it runs with the land. A variance only applies to bulk standards such as setbacks, height, and other minimum and maximum standards. And so tonight, this body is deciding whether the proposed deviation from the Land Development Code standards should be approved or not. So specifically, Mr. Martinez is seeking a variance for a 3-foot reduction to the attached carport side yard setback standards from a 5-foot minimum currently required by code to the proposed 2-foot minimum. The property is currently zoned R2, single-family attached residential, and is located within the central neighborhoods character area. And the property specifically is outlined in this black hatching surrounded by other R2 and a little further out R3 zone properties. So this is an aerial of the site taken on August 20th of last year, 2024. Please note that there are residential properties to the north and south, and in red is the general proposed location of the carport. So this is a photo taken on January 27th of this year. The red line, where my cursor is, indicates roughly the 2-foot proposed setback location. Currently, strict enforcement of the Land Development Code stipulates a 5-foot setback, which would roughly only allow for 9 feet and 7 inches of space to fit a vehicle underneath. With approval of the proposed 2-foot variance, this variance setback, this space increases to 12 feet 7 inches, roughly. As of today, there have been 0 public comments. And staff has found that the application meets the approval criteria for a variance, specifically that the variance does not alter the character of the district, is for a variance that is not self-imposed, is not of substantial detriment to the adjacent property owners, and is needed for the owner to utilize their property. A full analysis of all approval criteria may be found within your packet, and staff is able to bring up any criteria that you all would like to discuss or just look at further. So after staff analysis, staff has found that all the relevant development review team agencies, such as the Planning Division, Engineering Division, Fire District, and Building Division, have reviewed the proposed variance and have no further comments at this time. A building permit is next required, in which greater detail, including the design, size, aesthetics, and safety measures such as a fire-rated wall, will be reviewed. And also, please note, the original proposal from Mr. Martinez was for a 1.5-foot setback. After further review by the Building Division, that setback had to be pushed to 2 feet, which is where we're at now, a 2-foot variance. And so some of the measurements and aerials you'll see in your packet and on the presentation show the 1.5 foot, but tonight this body is strictly voting on a 2-foot variance. And lastly, city staff recommends the Board of Adjustment approve case AV 24-0003. And finally, staff has noted the following items for consideration by the board. The variance is for a 3-foot side yard setback, reduction from 5 feet to 2 feet. The proposed structure should not have any negative impact on surrounding properties due to the type of structure proposed and the required safety standards per the Building Division. And then lastly, the proposed structure shall match the existing home in design and aesthetics. Staff is now able to answer any questions as well as the applicant. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Does the board have any questions for the applicant or staff? Yes, member.
So I will be voting yes on this to approve the variance. However, however the vote comes out, I would like to have the opportunity to find out exactly how this all happened, because the applicant did come before council, and it was relayed to him that the car part wouldn't be a problem. He felt obligated to take it down, and he did, and now we're to this point. And I don't understand why he's having to apply for a building permit, or why he is having to put up a firewall. It just does not make any sense to me. So I want that to go on the record. And I will be following up on this after the vote tonight, however it comes out. So thank you.
Councilmember, did you want me to answer any of those questions?
No, you
Okay,
don't have
okay.
to.
Thank
We're
you.
just voting on the variance tonight.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Member Leffel?
I just wanted to make sure that we clarified that we're only voting on the setback, the 3-foot variance, not on the firewall or what the thing's made out of or any of that. Only that we're allowing him to move 3 foot closer to his property line with his carport.
Yeah,
Two foot.
please, Frank.
It's 2 foot.
Yeah, you move over 3 foot further than where you're supposed to be, there's 2 foot left.
Yeah, 'cause we're asking, well, it's 5
So-
foot, but we're asking for 3 foot. 3 foot, yeah, you're
Yes.
correct. I'm sorry.
So the outside of your physical structure, whenever you get done, should be less than 2 foot or 2 foot from the actual property line. And I would caution a person to be careful about using the fence line as the property line, because the fence line may not be actually on the property line, and you may be surprised. You may have more space than you think, or in the case of what I found out, I had less space than what I thought because everything was in the wrong place. So ultimately, he should be 2 foot from the property line. That's what we're approving, if I understand this correctly.
Yes, sir. The board tonight is voting on the 3 feet reduction for a 2 foot minimum setback from the property line. All other details such as aesthetics, design, the fire rated wall.
Construction materials and all that, that's beyond our scope.
Yes, sir. That will all be taken care of during the building permit process.
Thank you. No further questions here.
Thank you.
It's Mr. Chavez, correct?
Or Nathan.
All right, I try to be formal at these things. Mr. Chavez, I have a curious question. When you were inspecting the site and taking pictures, did you notice carports in the surrounding neighborhood that would have been closer or in conjunction to similar to this
Yes.
house? Yes, you did? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that as part of one of our requirements. Thank you. I would like to make a motion.
Public.
Oh, did we? Oh, sorry. My bad. If you
And-
could close that, if you're done.
And do any members of the public wish to provide comments on this case?
Name and address.
I'm a close neighbor that lives very close by. Sorry, my name is Verona Gonzalez. I'm also a lifelong resident of Commerce City. 7021 East 60th Avenue. So I'm right here on the corner, directly across from Frank. And, sorry, I digress. I, first and foremost, wanted to thank you, Ms. Douglas, Mrs. Douglas, for your comments at the very beginning, because this has been a long and arduous process, and I know for Mr. Martinez all along, and came at a lot of confusion, not for just him, but for us and our neighborhood in particular, which is a main thoroughfare, but also seems to be particularly targeted as of recently with some of these things and changes that are maybe coming to be zoned with design developments of new Commerce City and the like, but not that have ever been required or that are of what the foundational Commerce City is and has ever been, but also changing these things, bringing down and requiring full structures, which I know does not speak to you. That goes to building and zoning and far more, which, I'm also more zoned on, but when you come down and look at fire risks and everything like that, what was taken down and what's being required to be put up is far different. And, as a member of the public, it is concerning that, the way our neighborhoods are being able to handle or our properties we're able to maintain them and keep, our area. I don't think we've ever been one that's been particularly targeted with excessive lawns or being said that we don't care about our homes. We've been here since 1990. You've been here we have done nothing but make improvements to the community, to our homes, to the area, improvements, upgrades, and that's what we've all been continuing and hoping to be able to do. But when we're being made to torn down and make unreasonable changes that not only affect structural, but now affect, because you have to go inside and you do far more changes and difficulties for your residents, you're making it an extreme hardship. And, it seems when zoning cases like these are being brought up, it seems to be more, I hate to say it, but the way it's directed to these improvements, it doesn't allow residents to stay in their homes or keep and maintain the homes the way that they may need to be. And I just wanted to bring that up, and like I said, I agree, and I thank you, Ms. Douglas, for your commitment to research to how we even got to this point in the beginning, or to begin with. And I don't know why we are here.
Thank you for the
Thank you,
comments.
Verona. Yeah, and just when, it is, you can see in the picture, the metal carport went to the fence, and it was non-combustible. 8 years, not a problem. All of a sudden, it's a problem for the inspector, and she hounded me because I'm on her route. So,
Thank you. Are there any additional comments that the public would like to make?
We're neighbors, right?
Can you
Ma'am, please come
to
up and you have to speak into the microphone.
Hi, good evening. My name is Cynthia Luna. Address 6001 Olive Street, that's the house right there. When we moved in, about a year, 2 years later, we saw that, and we have no problem with it. It doesn't affect us by any means.
Okay, thank you for the comments. Anyone else like to speak? All right. Do we have anyone attending virtually tonight?
No, ma'am.
Great, thank you. Okay, so at this time, I will now close the public hearing for this case. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve case AV 24-00003, and it meets the criteria of the Land Development Code based upon such findings, and I recommend to approve.
Can I happily second that, please?
Great. Okay, we have a motion by Board Member Fry and a second by Board Member Douglas. Any discussion on this case?
Yes, actually, I would like to personally apologize to you for having to spend so much time on this and for you to have felt the pressure to take down the original carport when the council actually indicated that you shouldn't have to, and that whoever was responsible didn't reach back out to you to say it wasn't necessary, when that's the consensus of the council. And I appreciate you taking the time to come before council. But I do apologize that this has become the outcome.
thank you, Mrs. Douglas.
Sincerely.
Thank you, Board Member Douglas. Any other discussion? Nope. Okay. All right, if we could please open the electronic voting. Okay, 4 yeses. So I move that the Board of Adjustment enter a finding that the requested variance for the property located at 6011 Olive Street contained in case AV 24-0003 meets the criteria of the Land Development Code, and based upon such findings, approve the variance. Thank you. Okay. Is there any board member business to discuss at this time?
I did have a question. As a new member, I was wondering if, and you had mentioned the last meeting was in July, for our next month meeting, regardless of the case, if we could have a planning session to just go over how we flow our meetings. Just curious.
Yeah, I'm happy to meet. It depends on everybody else's availability if we want to schedule something. Did you hear that, Board Member Douglas? A planning session, if we have a board meeting next month, for us to have a planning session? On the flow of the meeting and,
Just to make. Yes, a training session for the board. Just,
okay.
the County Board of Adjustment does that I sit on. I find them very helpful. It also allows essentially, like I was just talking to Chair Hernandez earlier, that, the ZBA doesn't meet very regularly, and so it helps to, when you do have something, the flows, or, oh, I forgot, we didn't close things, or the different bylaw rules. So I would think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, that would be great. And yeah, and it seems like, I don't know if they have any cases that are prepared, so there might be some lapse, but if we wanted to do that walkthrough and just kind of get together, I think that would be great. Okay, perfect.
We don't have any agenda items for March 11th.
Okay.
But we could have that study session, training session if you'd like.
That would
on
be
March
great.
11th.
That would be great, if that works
Thank
for
you.
everybody, March 11th?
And I know that the city attorney has also offered like training sessions and land development codes and things like that. I think the more knowledge that we have, the more successful we will be in
Agreed.
how we do this.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, because we make some very impactful, important
Nice. Have a-
decisions. And I
Absolutely.
think the better we equipped we are to do that, the more successful we'll be.
Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you. Thank you all.
I
All
look forward to that.
right. Anything else that we'd like to discuss, Board? Nope, okay. All right. Is there any attorney business to discuss at this time?
I'd just like to introduce myself. My name is Elliot Schaefer. I'm a fairly new attorney here as well, so 2 months with Commerce City. So I'll be the new attorney working with the board, so I think the training session will be beneficial for me as well.
Welcome.
Thank you. But I'm always happy to answer any questions you may have or assist. So if you have any questions, certainly work through staff, myself, and we're here to answer questions that you may have in your roles and responsibilities.
Perfect.
Thanks for the clarification earlier, by the way.
Yes, thank you. All right. Is there any staff business to discuss at this time?
I'll just say hello as well. I'm Heather Vidlock. I'm the planning manager. I've been here since July. So I was at your July meeting, but it was only like my second day. So it's great to be here and supporting the planning staff and helping you out.
Great.
Trial by
Thank you.
fire,
Welcome.
second
Welcome
day.
to you both.
We got a
Yeah.
ZBA.
All right, thank you for the updates. The time is now 6:46, and the meeting is adjourned.